Do you ever wonder what really happens when you just stop reaching out? When you go completely silent? Most people think she won't even notice, that maybe your absence will be just a quiet little footnote in her day. But the truth is far more powerful than that. When a woman starts to feel the silence after your presence, everything begins to shift. That space you once filled doesn't stay empty, it echoes. And those echoes, they drive her wild. At first, she might brush it off. She'll act unbothered, almost indifferent. She might even tell herself, good riddance. But slowly something starts to change. The same woman who once replied to your texts with half effort, or didn't prioritize your energy, suddenly finds herself checking her phone more often. She starts noticing the notifications that aren't from you, and with each passing hour of silence, her curiosity doesn't just grow, it starts to take control. She begins to wonder where you are, who you're with, and what you're doing. But here's the twist. She won't always admit it. She'll disguise it as casual scrolling or pretend she just happened to stumble upon your post. But internally, she's scanning for signals, looking for any sign of your attention. Because when you stop reaching out, you become a mystery. And the human mind, especially a mind used to feeling seen and pursued, hates unanswered questions. That silence becomes an itch she can't scratch. And don't get it twisted. This isn't just about missing you. It's about the unknown, the lack of explanation, the missing piece. It's about the story in her mind that never got a proper ending. And when there's no closure, she starts to fill in the blanks. Why did he stop talking to me? Was it something I did? Is he with someone else? These questions loop in her head day in, day out. What used to be background noise becomes her internal obsession. She replays your last messages, wonders if she missed a sign, starts to question her own behavior, even the tiniest details. Your last smile, the tone of your last voice note, the timing of your silence take on meaning, and the more you remain still, the louder your absence becomes. What she doesn't realize is that your silence is not rejection, it's a mirror. It forces her to sit with the version of herself that only ever knew attention. And now that it's gone, she's facing parts of herself she wasn't ready to meet. In that silence, you shift the dynamic. Without saying a single word, you create tension, awareness, and intrigue. Because when a man who once gave his energy suddenly goes silent, a woman doesn't forget, she feels it deeply, and whether it takes days or weeks, she starts to feel the weight of your disappearance. That's the power of presence. Taken away. Let me ask you something. Have you ever gone silent on someone, only to notice them start showing up in the most subtle, unexpected ways? You didn't message her. You didn't like her post. You didn't even view her story. And yet, there she is, liking a random picture from months ago, viewing your story within seconds, dropping a vague emoji on your reel like it means nothing. But you and I both know it means everything. When you stop reaching out, she doesn't just accept it. Even if she tries to act strong on the surface, underneath she's testing the waters. She's trying to figure out if your silence is real or if it's just temporary. And how does she do that? Through quiet little triggers, a subtle accidental text, a random reaction to your post. A post that's clearly meant for your eyes even though it's shared with everyone. She won't say it directly, but she's probing, testing, seeing if you're still emotionally available without making the first move outright. These aren't coincidences, these are signals, because she's not sure how to handle the void. She doesn't know how to face the fact that someone who used to be so present, so consistent, is suddenly gone. And now her mind begins to panic, not visibly, not loudly, but in those small, calculated moves that carry more weight than any direct message ever could. What she's really doing is trying to trigger your response without exposing her vulnerability. She wants to know if you still care, but her pride won't let her ask. So she watches, she waits, she throws out bait just to see if you'll bite. Maybe she posts something seductive, thinking it'll catch your attention. Maybe she plays the victim in a caption, hoping to spark a sense of guilt or concern. And if that doesn't work, she might even use mutual friends to fish for information just to see where your head's at. But here's the thing, the moment you notice her testing your silence, it's already working. Not because she's winning, but because the silence you initiated has already caused a shift. Her behavior is no longer about control, it's about reaction. She is reacting to the gap you created. The emotional space you pulled back is now being filled by her uncertainty. And when she doesn't get what she wants from those little tests, it starts to frustrate her, confuse her, challenge her assumptions. She thought she had more impact. She thought you'd come running the moment she dropped a hint. But now she's beginning to realize your silence isn't a game. It's a boundary. It's a statement. It's your way of saying, I no longer chase what doesn't chase me. That's when everything changes, because the more she tries to trigger a reaction and fails, the more she begins to see her power slipping, and she starts to wonder, who's really in control now? You know what most people never talk about? The way silence can bruise the ego, especially when it's coming from someone she expected would always be there. When you stop contacting a woman, it's not just about the messages you're no longer sending. It's about the power shift that quietly starts unfolding. And one of the first things to take a hit is her ego. At first, she might play it cool. She might even convince herself that you were just another guy, easily replaceable, someone she didn't need anyway. But deep down, if she was used to being the one desired, the one chased, the one who called the shots, your silence feels like a direct challenge to her image of herself. It shakes something internal, something she's not used to questioning. You see, a woman who's confident in her influence over you starts to feel confused when it suddenly stops working. Her mind goes from, he's just playing hard to get, to wait, why isn't he getting back to me, to, did I misjudge how much I meant to him? Slowly, her sense of control begins to unravel, and that unraveling doesn't show up in loud outbursts. It shows up in quiet insecurity, in overthinking, and subtle shifts in how she sees herself in relation to you. She might start analyzing her actions, replaying the last conversations you had, searching for clues. Was she too distant, too cold? Did she say something wrong? Her ego, once so sure of its place, now begins to fracture under the pressure of your absence. And no matter how strong or self-assured she appears, the silence makes her second-guess. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about trying to win by pulling back. It's about reclaiming balance. Because the truth is, many women are used to being the emotional center of a man's attention. They're used to being responded to, validated, chased. But when that pattern is interrupted, and you're no longer giving that energy, it forces a moment of reflection, one where she must confront her assumptions. And it's in that moment that she feels exposed, because your silence isn't just empty space, it's pressure. It reveals where she's been relying on your attention for confidence, for validation, for control. And now that it's gone, she's not sure who she is in that space anymore. That's why your absence can hit harder than any words, because it doesn't just remove you from the picture, it removes the mirror she was using to feel powerful. And now, left with only her thoughts, her ego starts to whisper doubts she's never had to hear before, doubts that shake the very foundation of how she saw herself in your story. That's when the silence becomes more than just quiet. It becomes transformation. Isn't it wild how silence can become louder than words? When you stop contacting her, you're not just removing yourself, you're giving her mind permission to wander, and it will. But what's more interesting is how it wanders. What starts as confusion quickly turns into imagination, and soon she's not just missing you, she's rewriting everything that ever happened between you. In that silence, her mind starts filling in the blanks. Because humans hate open loops, we crave stories with endings, chapters that close neatly. And when a man walks away without explaining, without giving a clear reason, without begging or chasing, her brain refuses to accept the silence at face value. It demands a story. So she writes one. She starts to remember the times you showed up, the moments you listened, the words you said. She replays that conversation where you seemed distant, wondering if that was the moment you mentally checked out. She rewinds to your last message, staring at it like it's holding a hidden meaning. And what's really happening is this. She's not just thinking about you, she's reinterpreting you. This is where things shift. The things she once ignored or took for granted now feel different. That little compliment you gave her suddenly carries more weight. That time you checked in on her when she was sick, that's now a sign of your emotional maturity. And that silly argument that she brushed off, it becomes a red flag she might have missed. Her silence isn't passive, it's active. Internally, she's running through your timeline like a film critic, picking apart scenes, moments, pauses, looking for answers that only you could give, but now you're not around to explain. And that's where the obsession deepens. She isn't just wondering why you stopped talking, she's building entire scenarios around what could have happened. And in doing so, she often paints you in a better light than you were when you were present. Because absence has a way of amplifying presence. When you're gone, you're no longer just a man who used to text her. You become a mystery. And mysteries are powerful. They linger in the mind, they haunt. And in the stillness, her emotions become louder. Regret starts creeping in, guilt, maybe even shame. She begins to question how she handled you, if she pushed you away, if she missed something that was actually rare. And here's the part most people don't see coming. She might not even want you back, but she'll start wanting the version of you her mind created, the idealized version, the one her silence helped craft, the one that didn't get angry, didn't pull away, didn't lose patience, because in that mental rewrite, she removes your flaws and magnifies your value. So now she's not just sitting with loss, she's sitting with the story of what could have been, had she seen it sooner. And that story? It hurts more than the silence itself. Let's be honest, what's the first thing people do when they feel like they've lost control? They try to prove they haven't. And when you stop contacting her, even if she acts like she's unaffected, there's often a reaction you'll notice if you look close enough. Suddenly, she's posting more selfies than usual, her captions become more suggestive, her stories more curated, and her energy more unbothered. But underneath all that display, there's a storm brewing. She's not thriving, she's compensating. See, the moment you pull back, there's a void. A space that used to be filled with your attention, your validation, your consistency. And even if she didn't openly appreciate it while it was there, she still felt it. She still counted on it. So when it's gone, she has to find a way to replace that feeling quickly. That's when the performance begins. Not for the world, but for you. She might start entertaining new people, talking to someone else, flirting online, or showing off how fast she can move on. But this isn't healing, it's distraction. It's noise she's using to drown out the silence that's now surrounding her. Because your absence forced her to confront herself, and that confrontation is uncomfortable, so rather than sit with it, she reaches for a temporary fix. And it's tempting to believe she's genuinely happy, that she's forgotten you, that she's already replaced you. But don't be fooled. There's a difference between moving on and performing like she has. This version of her isn't expressing confidence, it's trying to project it. She's not posting because she feels good. She's posting because she hopes you'll see it and feel something. That's what this phase is about. Reaction. Her pride might stop her from messaging you directly, but her ego still wants to know she matters. So she turns to what she can control, her appearance, her presence, her image. It becomes a silent plea. I'm still valuable, right? But the truth is, if she really didn't care, she wouldn't need to show you that she's fine. People who have genuinely let go don't need to prove they've let go. She doesn't have to prove they're fine. She doesn't have to prove they've let go. It's also possible she starts comparing you to the new attention she's getting, thinking it might fill the emotional gap you left behind, but that comparison rarely satisfies, because no matter how many compliments she gets, they don't carry the same weight as the one person she's hoping to hear from, you. And when that attention fades, when it doesn't hit the same, she's left feeling even emptier than before. So if you see her seemingly thriving, understand what's really happening. It's not strength, it's survival. It's pride trying to outrun pain. Because the truth is, when you stop reaching out, her world doesn't instantly move on. It shifts. It struggles. And in that struggle, she's forced to face something real. That your silence speaks louder than any spotlight she can stand under. Have you ever wondered what really happens after the silence has settled? After all the posts, the curiosity, the overthinking, the ego bruises, what comes next? See, when you stop contacting her, you set off a ripple. And at first, it might just look like confusion or a reaction. But given time, something deeper begins to unfold. Because your silence doesn't just trigger emotions, it forces evolution. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. She will either come back or she'll grow through it. There's no middle ground. Some women come back because the silence becomes unbearable, not because they need closure, but because your absence made them realize what they truly lost. They reflect. They reevaluate their role in the disconnect. And when they return, they're not just looking for conversation, they're seeking a new understanding. These are the women who come back softer, more grounded, more aware of what your presence actually meant. They realized that while you were silent, they were speaking to their own conscience. And when the noise died down, your value spoke for itself. But others? They grow. They won't come back. Not because you didn't matter, but because they finally faced the parts of themselves they had been avoiding. The silence made them sit in discomfort long enough to transform. Maybe they saw the pattern in how they treat people. Maybe they finally took accountability. Or maybe your absence gave them the space to rebuild their self-worth from something deeper than external validation. And while they may not return, they'll never forget how your silence played a role in that awakening. But here's what matters most. It's not whether she comes back. It's what your silence created in the process. It disrupted her routine. It forced reflection. It made her rethink how she connects, how she values, how she responds. And sometimes that's more powerful than anything you could have said out loud. Because when you stop contacting someone, it's not about punishment. It's not about making them chase you. It's about choosing peace over proving a point. It's about stepping back to see who leans forward. And whether she reaches out or not, your absence left a mark. You gave her the gift of space, the one thing most people avoid but absolutely need to grow. So when you walk away without bitterness, without begging, without games, you give both of you the chance to find clarity. And that clarity, it's the turning point, not just for her, but for you too. Because sometimes silence is the most honest response. And sometimes walking away is the loudest way to be heard.